Hello everyone, Tina here. I hope you're having a fabulous day. I thank you so much for joining me. Today we are going to create a project for Spellbinders and Fun Stampers Journey using the Stamp of the Month Club Kit for May. No, not May. Whoa, I'm way ahead for March 2020. This month's stamp set is called Sentiment Stacks, and I love this. When I first saw it, it reminded me of Wheel of Fortune. You know how they have that game? Well, probably a lot of you don't know what Wheel of Fortune is, but they have the game before and after. So you have a main word like love, miss, birthday, thanks, sorry, or hello, and then you have a sentence that goes below it or above it. So, for example, there is with all my, and then you could stamp the word love. Or you could stamp the word love, and then it could say is all you need. Same with the miss. You have totally, miss, and then you have miss your face. So you can stamp the before and after, or both. Super fun. And when I first saw it, I thought sentiments were all one sentiment, but everything is separated for you, so you have total customizability. There's also some accent pieces in here which are really nice. Fun Stampers Journey has a storage sheet you can stamp your red rubber stamps on. Stamp in the Month Club Kit is always red rubber, which is so nice because it's fine lined, and the detail in red rubber is, I think, so much nicer than photopolymer. Just my opinion. You guys might have your own opinion, but I just noticed a different detail with the red rubber. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and separate all of mine. You can put them on your plastic sheet, of course, but to share with you, I put them on the plastic sheet that it comes in. This way I can flip it over. But that is actually, the white one is actually a storage sheet. So here is all your stamps. There's 36 in total. And you get a heart and flowers. There's even a hashtag. And then there's decorative pieces that have a polka dot strip. There's a little fancy scroll script. There's also arrows. There is a lot of detailed, little detailed stamps that you could mix and match with your sentiments. Okay, for today's card, we're going to make a miss you card. So I'm going to stamp the miss, and I'm stamping it on some white cardstock. I'm going to bring in my black licorice ink, and we'll just stamp that. And then I will eventually trim that down to block it off so it's smaller. I also brought in a piece of white cardstock. Now I trimmed this down to a 2.5 inch strip by 5.5 inch strip. We're going to use that to create our focal point. Today's card, we're only going to be using the stamp set. I thought it'd be fun just to kind of stretch the stamp set a little bit. Now I'm going to pop up my miss with a piece of a foam square. Now I reduced the tackiness with it because I want to be moving it from this panel. I just needed it stuck down while I finish off my sentiment. I decided on writing the sentiment, or stamping the sentiment that says totally miss seeing you. So I grabbed those two, and then I'm going to need to bring in my T-square ruler here because I want everything centered. It's important that for me that everything is centered on this panel here. So the grid lines on my mat are helping me also. Okay, once I have my miss centered, I'm going to go ahead and mark the center of this panel with my pencil here, above the miss and then also below it. This way it'll give me a little bit of a guide when I stamp the first totally sentiment. I'll ink that up and stamp that above the miss. And then I'm also going to do the same exact thing with the rest of my sentiment that says seeing you. And that little dot for a pencil mark really helped me out on centering. Okay, once we have our sentiment stamped, I'll go ahead and remove the miss. And this is why I reduced the tackiness on that foam so it's easy to remove. Okay, I'm going to remove my pencil marks with my eraser here. And then I'm going to bring in a die set. I'm going to be using the Spellbinders Essential Rectangles die set. And I'm going to bring in, use the smallest one in the set here. It's a perfect 1 inch wide rectangle. And so we're going to cut out a portion of the middle of this panel. So I'm going to make sure that my panel is centered on my grid marks here, and then I'm going to tape down my die so half of my rectangle is on the paper, half of it is off. So we're basically going to cut out a 1/2 inch piece on the inside of this panel. We'll tape it down, run that through the die cut machine, and you're probably thinking, well, what is she doing? But there's a method to my madness here. We're going to do the same thing on the left side of my panel, and I need to make sure it is lined up with the grid lines on my mat. And then again, half of it is on my paper, and then the other half is off of my paper. And it's centered. I gotta make sure it's centered. And then I ran that through my die cut machine. So we are left with the letter I. I thought it would be fun to create a sentiment that says I, and then it says totally miss seeing you. So the I will be my focal point on my card today. It was a little bit too, I didn't want it to be the exact width or length of my card base, so I'm trimming it down on the top and the bottom, so it's just a smaller eye, and I think that looks great. Okay, now we are my eyes all ready. We're going to do some more stamping, but I'm going to use some colored inks, and I have 3 of the decorative details that are in this stamp set. I have the heart strip, I have the polka dot strip, and I have the arrows. The inks that I'm using are from Fun Stamper's Journey. They're the Color Fusion inks, and I have banana cream, I have bubblegum, and then I also have fresh sage. I thought the bubblegum would be perfect for the hearts. I wasn't sure if it was dark enough, so I'm testing it on some scratch paper here, and I think it's going to work out great. I'm going to create a pattern, so we're going to stamp the hearts on the very bottom and the hearts on the very top. And then I'm going to take the arrow next, and we're going to stamp the arrow with the banana cream, which is a very pale yellow. It's real pretty yellow. I'll stamp that right above the hearts, and we'll do the same thing on the top area. And you know, as I looked at it, the banana cream was just too light of an ink, so I'm going to bring in a little bit of a darker yellow ink. This is Haystack. I'm going to just stamp right over my banana cream ink, and you can't even tell that I double stamped here. And I think that color just is a little bit more brighter. It stood out a little bit more. Next, we're going to use fresh sage for the polka dots. I'll stamp that above the arrow. This is like a very light olivey green. And then you know what? We're going to repeat the pattern. So we're going to take our little heart strip. We'll ink that up again with our bubble gum, and we'll just repeat it on the very top and on the very bottom with the same color inks. So there's 6 rows basically, and I think the color combination is real pretty. Makes it kind of a happy color combination, kind of springy too. I think it's going to work well. Now we're going to, since the miss is hollowed out, we can color it in, add a little color to that. So I'm using 3 of my pink Copic markers. I'm adding the lightest shade to my sentiment here, and then I'm going to create a gradient. So on the very top, I'm going to add my darkest pink, and then after the colors that I'm using, I guess you guys probably want to know the colors here. So I have darkest shade is RV14, mid-tone is RV11, lightest tone is RV10, and it just creates a gradient effect. And then there's also a little shadow on this, which causes a little bit of dimension. Okay, now I'm going to use 2 more pieces of foam squares and place my sentiment popped up in the middle. So my sentiment ideally reads, if you look at it, will say, "I totally miss seeing you." I thought that would be so fun. I'm going to use some colored cardstock for my background. I did trim it down to 4 inches by 5 1/4, and then we're going to emboss that with the Splattered Circles embossing folder from Spellbinders. Just going to give a little bit of a detailed background. And in the close-ups, I think you'll be able to see the pattern a little bit better. But I'm going to use my tape runner and adhere that to my card base. I'm using a standard A2 size card base. We'll place our cardstock over the top. And then I did pop up my eye with foam tape. We'll place that right in the center. want to keep this kind of clean and simple. All I'm going to do for bells and whistles is add some journey glaze over the word miss for a little bit of shine and a little bit of dimension to that miss you. And then that completes my card for today using the Stamp of the Month Club Kit from Spellbinders and Fun Stampers Journey. I hope you enjoyed my project. Thank you so much for joining me, guys. I wish you a fabulous day, and we will see you again real soon. Bye-bye.